If you're an A Math student, have you ever wondered how discriminant actually really works? In Sec 3 A Math for Chapter 1, you learn that discriminant, there are 3 different cases, right? Whereby it's positive, equals to 0, and negative. And each portion over here represents a different number of solutions, right? 2 solutions, 2 equal solutions, which is essentially just 1 solution, and no solutions. But have you ever wondered to yourself, how does this actually work? Like, why is it that if it's positive, there are 2 distinct solutions, right? In this video over here, I want to explain to you how it really works so that you don't need to just memorize, it makes sense to you so that you can really apply it in exams. So let's just pull up a formula that you're already very familiar with, and that would be your quadratic formula. So you learn that x equals to negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And if you want to see how I actually derive this formula over here, you can just take a look at one of my earlier videos that I'm going to screenshot and put on the screen over here and watch that video to see how this formula is actually being derived using common sets. So you can see that in our quadratic formula over here, we have the discriminant chucked very nicely in this square root, right? This is our discriminant. And if let's say our discriminant is positive, right? b squared minus 4ac is positive. That means what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be square rooting a positive number over here. You can see that there's a square root over here, right? And since you are going to square root a positive number, the value that comes out will actually be a real number, right? And since there's a plus minus over here, when you have a plus minus square root a positive number, you will end up with 2 different values, right? You end up with the positive and the negative respectively, right? And that's why we have 2 different solutions, right? 2 distinct solutions. So if b squared minus 4ac equals to 0, right? Even if you plus minus square root 0, the answer come out will still be 0, right? There's only one singular value over here, regardless if it's plus or minus, because plus minus 0 is still 0, right? So in the end, your whole equation will just be negative b plus minus 0 over 2a, which will just be negative b over 2a, right? So that's why there's only one solution, or rather we'll say 2 repeated solutions, because it's just the same solution, right? Plus minus 0 is just 0. Lastly, when you have b squared minus 4ac is negative, so I'm just going to write it over here. B squared minus 4ac is negative. If you try to square root a negative number, you realize that you cannot square root a negative number, because what ends up is it gets a imaginary number, which is not in the scope of the O-level syllabus, right? And that's why when we say that there's no real solutions over here, simply because we cannot square root a negative number and get a real solution over here, right? And that's why the whole quadratic equation will collapse, simply because there's just no solution to that. So this is exactly why we say that discriminant has 3 different scenarios, and this is actually what's happening underneath the hood. So I hope that this video made a lot more sense to you, and it made math make sense to you. And if you're looking for a teacher that's able to explain concepts like this to you in a way that you can intuitively understand, make sure to WhatsApp this number over here, and I'll send you details to my classes and my Math Tuition Center for my Sec 3 E Math and A Math classes this year. And I look forward to seeing you in my classes soon.